Alrighty, hello everyone. My name is Madison Cruz, and I'm with Jason Longshore. And we had a really fun conversation with defender Matt Edwards, who also just recently signed his homegrown deal with Atlanta United after being such a prominent member on Atlanta United too, being their captain. It was a great opportunity for him. I had the opportunity to catch up with him about that and about his journey up into the first team now. Jason, what was your biggest takeaway from our conversation?
It's just the progression that Matt's been on this year. I mean, going from leaving college early, which he talks about, that decision to take a Atlanta United 2 deal and chase it now, as opposed to finishing up and then seeing what happens either with a potential homegrown deal or a twos deal or going into the draft. He took the opportunity to come back to the Atlanta United Academy, and he's made the absolute most of it. You know, he was in preseason. He's been with the first team a lot this year. He's been called up 4 different times, and now he's under that MLS homegrown deal. So he's earned every single progression that he's made in this last, I mean, honestly, about 12 months, from his last season at North Carolina to signing a pro deal to preseason to earning the captain's armband to playing in the Open Cup to now being a full member of the first team, while still balancing being that captain for the second team and leading the academy players who are trying to emulate him.
One thing too that was so interesting is I know that we had talked afterwards a bit about just his development and his leadership style. We mentioned the word intuitive, just of how he can just sit there and he knows himself well enough to know when he needs to take a step back, when he needs to push forward and be a leader. And even Rob Valentino talked to us a little bit in media about how he just has grown and he is turning to him to help him lead. And he's just very intuitive when he's on the field, especially with the first team.
Yeah, I think he fits in really well, and that's a credit to maybe being wiser than his years. He's just someone who understands like the role that you're in these situations. If he's the captain with the second group, his personality is different than it is when he is, the new kid on the block with the first team group. So he's able to adapt really well. And that's what's so impressive. And he does it on the field too. I mean, this is a guy who we've seen just this year with the second team and the first team play as a center back on both sides, play as a center back in a 3 center back setup, has played as a left back, has played as a right back, has played as a wing back. He can do whatever it takes. And that ability to adapt is what's going to get him on the field more and more, because he can play any position along the back line. But that intelligence in how he handles being part of a group, that's what allows him to fit in and earns the trust and confidence of the guys around him.
Well, I think we've talked long enough. I think everyone else listening definitely wants to hear more from Matt Edwards. So, without further ado, here's our conversation with Matt Edwards of Atlanta United and Atlanta United too. From the last time we talked, it was for the Atlanta United 2 preview. I just kind of want to touch a little bit around the season, especially your growth as the captain. How have you noticed a big jump in your leadership as you've been going on and being the captain of the twos leading up till now?
I think for me, it's more just getting comfortable with accepting the role. You know, you could see it as a big weight on my shoulders, but I think every day it's better in terms of I'm accepting the role and guys are trusting me a little more, and I'm trusting the team even more. So I think as a team we're gelling together in terms of that. But I think the role is shift for just continuing to be a vocal piece and leading by example first before, anything else.
And I mean, with that being said, with what you've been able to do this season with the twos, I want to touch a little bit as well on you getting the homegrown deal more than anything. What was your initial reaction? How did you find out? And just what were the emotions all surrounding that?
Matt actually came to me and talked to me, and he told me that I should probably get an agent because they're gonna offer me something. I wasn't too, or I'm not gonna say I wasn't too excited. I didn't want to show that I was excited. Wanted to stay in the moment in terms of preparing for the game we had coming up, just in case I got in or not. But also I understand my role is still two's captain, and I want to make sure that I'm still embracing that, and just any opportunity I get with the first team, take it. But I kind of know and self-awareness piece that I know I'm still with the twos in heart. So just making sure that whenever I'm on these trips, still leading and still being a good example, especially for the young kids that came on this trip, just being a good example for them.
Is that something you've taken from your experience with the first team and then coming back and being that leader for the twos? What are some of the lessons? What are some of the takeaways that you've taken from your time with the first team that you're going to utilize as captain when you're on the field, off the field with the twos?
Yeah, you just even the guys that don't even have the captain's armband with the first team, everyone's a leader. They're all trying to lead to get the goal at the end of the day. Everyone wants to win, and there's guys that have a lot of experience that are leading the younger guys. And kind of that's just the mindset I want to have is the more I lead, I think the better person and player I can become. And yeah, th those guys are great. I mean, they're pretty welcoming. I mean, I've trained with them a good amount, so it's easier to come in that. And then they had a meeting and kind of congratulated me, but like I said, I was trying not to get too excited, just because that's just who I am, and I don't want to, get comfortable either. So
Did they do the initiation and make you sing?
no, no.
You had already done that, right?
Yeah, I did that in 2020
Oh,
with the.
wow, way back. Okay.
Yeah, I did it a while ago when Jack was no, when Stephen Glass was the coach actually of the twos.
When you decided to come out a little early from UNC, different situation, and I'm sure kind of the everything was laid out as to timelines and what the scenario could look like. What drove you to make the decision then to come to the twos this year?
It was actually a really, really tough decision because nothing actually was laid out. It was more just here's a twos contract for a year and we'll see what happens. The goal was obviously to try to get him in the first team, and everyone, Matt was the guy I usually talk to when it comes to that, and he was like, "Here, you have a bunch of injuries, so it's tough, but come in the winter and prove yourself." Was really all he said. He's like, "I believe in you, and you just need to show them that you can do it, and it won't be as hard to get." So that was kind of that conversation, but it was tough because it was a little bit of a risk. I mean, I have a year and a half left to finish a degree, but I think, and kind of what Matt told me is like, this is a time you need to come if you're going to, because next year might be harder to get into that environment. So I'm glad I did come when I did, but it was definitely a risk because a year and a half left of school paid for versus taking a risk on a Tuesday deal trying to get a first team. You never know what happens. So
You mentioned that you didn't feel like you were ready for that. I feel like especially in certain areas, it's difficult because you want to play professionally. You want to go ahead and get out there. You want to do it, but you having the realization that you wanted some more time to do that, was that a difficult process for you? Or is that something you just knew I needed time to perfect what I could do just to then get back on the field and now be where you are today?
I think for me is I didn't realize I wasn't ready until I kind of got to college, if that makes sense. I was struggling a little bit. Not my first few weeks in college, I was struggling, to adjust to the new team, to adjust to everything. And then I think I had a little bit of self-realization that it was a good decision to go to college because there's a lot of things I needed to work on. I needed to get stronger, work on the physical side of things, which is what college is great for. Um, and then the coach I had in college, he taught me a lot of good things about being just a right back. Um, and that's definitely helped me a lot and it's helped my defending. So I wouldn't say I realized it till I got to college that I was not ready for the pro environment and I needed a couple years to develop. But I think my biggest thing was just having the safety net. That was kind of where I was going to college. But I mean, I'm glad I made that decision, especially UNC, because that's ACC school is kind of where you want to be if you do go to college. You want to be in a good conference. Because the other college teams, I'm not saying they're bad or anything, but you get more opportunities going through the ACC route.
What was the most eye-opening thing this preseason with the first team since you spent so much time with them?
Um, I mean, we did the first few sessions, and I actually had two like pretty good sessions, and I was like, oh well, I can do this. It was tough, but I can. And then obviously the preseason game against Memphis, I want to say, that was a good like testament to where I was and how much further I needed to go. I mean, I was playing left back out of position, but it was good to see that the coach had faith in me to put me at left back, and it showed that they had some sense of, they liked me, so I wanted to just keep going. I mean, that it showed that they trusted me, and that's all you need is a little bit of confidence.
That versatility has always been something that, when I've talked to folks, jumps off the page with
Mm.
you is your ability to play on the left, on the right, in the middle with a three. It doesn't really matter for you. Where did that come from? Is it just something you've always had, or is it something that you kind of embraced to get on the field over time?
Nah, my team in North Carolina, IDF, I played everywhere. I mean, I mostly played six actually. He was trying to train me to see the game, the coach I had at the time, and that's the best position to do it is six. So he trained me as a six, and then played right back a lot when I was younger. And then when I would play down with my age group, he put me at center back because I was faster then and I could read the game. So that's kind of where that came from. He played me everywhere just so I get an understanding, and that was kind of his way of teaching is playing players everywhere. So when you get to the higher levels, just to get on the pitch, that's all you want to do. You don't care where you play. So that's kind of what Coach Andre Fortune was what that's what he taught me. Just try to get on the field no matter where you play. And UNC played left back most of my games because we didn't have a left back, and the guys that went in couldn't do it. So he put me there, and I mean, you just kind of just try to get on the field. That's the biggest goal.
How did the connections come with obviously with Andre Fortune and North Carolina and where you were before, and then coming to Atlanta in the academy in the first place? What was that process like?
So Jay came first. He came a year before me. We played in a regional tournament. He played really well. Some scouts saw him and he got a tryout. So that helped. And then that got IDF's foot in the door. So then we played against Atlanta in a scrimmage, and I played pretty well that game too. So then I got a trial for 3 days, I want to say, or maybe a tryout for a day. I don't remember. But and then I was playing center back that game, and Tony and Matt saw me and said they were interested. So that's how that happened. And then yeah, I got a tryout one day, and then they liked me. So and we also played against them, and I was playing six, and they also liked me then. So they were like, he needs to come up for a tryout. But I think Jay he opened the door for a lot of people on my team because I think there was 4 or 5 guys that came up for the tryout from my team. So it was testament to him and Coach Andre. He knows a lot of people. He's a lot of connections, so it helps too.
Was it a tough decision to relocate and come down to Atlanta at that time?
Um, it was tough in a sense, but like I was ready to get out. That wasn't the problem. I was ready to try something new. But financially it was tough. Because it's not like they provide housing. And so then we needed to find somewhere to live. And moving, my mom had to work at the time. She was working 2 jobs, so she couldn't come. But my grandma was like, sure, I'll come. So that's probably the hardest part is just finding somewhere to live and being able to stay there. It's financially not the easiest on them at least. So that's I have a lot of testament to them and thank them a lot for that. They took a risk too. So
I want to touch a little bit on your relationship with Jay Fortune a little bit. I mean, both of y'all, just the connection you guys have from that coaching aspect and then coming up through together. What has it been like? How is that relationship for you guys? And just talk to me a little bit about that.
yeah, it's great. I've obviously played with him for probably almost 10 years. No, like 8 to 9 years. So I mean we have the same football education, which is the best part. So when we play together, we just get each other. And then I live with him. Me and him are living together. We live together in the academy. So the connection, we're basically brothers at this point. So and then just he teaches me a lot of lessons too. I mean, he's obviously been in the first team environment for a little longer than me. So when I get up there, he just preaches to me certain things, like just try the difficult pass. Don't just settle for doing the easy stuff all the time. And just be confident. You're good enough to be up here, so just show it. And yeah, he helps me obviously. He's a little bit of tough love sometimes, but he does help.
You've been key in these two Open Cup wins, getting the team into the quarterfinals. Got Indy coming up here in a few weeks. What's different in Open Cup games versus league games in your mind?
I mean, there's just pressure. There's a lot more pressure with the first team, especially since the first team is seen to always be playing the underdog. I mean, you're playing a USL champ team, and teams expect you, or fans expect you to win those games. And they're not easy teams. They're USL championship teams. I mean, they're not easy games. So I think just that pressure coming into it and knowing, for me at least, that I have to perform if I want to stay up here. So it can sometimes be tough, but I don't. I mean, hey, it's a little bit of pressure. It won't hurt. And another thing is just first team guys, they're a little different than the twos guys in the sense, more intensity, I would say, and higher level. So they expect a lot more out of you too. You can make a mistake with the twos and not get punished for it, but if you make it with the first team, you can get punished for it. So that's also a big thing is they expect a lot more out of you.
The last one for me, is there anything this year as, you kind of came in wanting to earn a spot and then you get the armband with the twos, you get time with the first team in preseason, and then the Open Cup games, like we talked about, now you're an MLS contracted player. Is there one thing that jumps out to you that maybe you feel like you've learned in 2024?
Um, every time you get an opportunity, you have to take it because you're not going to get that many. I think a lot of the twos guys, especially, they're starting to get opportunities and they're starting to get in front of the first team coaches and they're starting to take their opportunity, training well, and then they're getting more opportunities. For example, Mati, he's always been every time he goes to the first team, he's one of the better players. And Javi came up a couple weeks ago and he trained really well. Same with Jacob. So that's the biggest thing for us, especially the twos, is every time we get that chance, we have to show them different characteristics that make them want to keep us coming in.